On the western bank of the Mississippi River, where the water moved slowly beneath wide-open skies, there stood an old lantern. It hung from a wooden post that had weathered countless seasons. Rain had softened the wood. Summer sun had faded its color. Winter winds had carved small lines into its surface. Yet the post remained strong, and so did the lantern. Every evening, just before sunset, the lantern would begin to glow. No one knew exactly how old it was. Some said it had stood there for 50 years. Others believed it had been there for more than a century. The oldest villagers remembered seeing it when they were children. Their grandparents had remembered it too. As far as anyone knew, the lantern had always been there. The Mississippi River flowed beside it day and night. In spring, the river carried drifting branches and fresh green leaves. In summer, it sparkled beneath warm sunlight. In autumn, golden leaves floated gently across its surface. And in winter, mist often hovered above the water like a soft blanket. Through every season, the lantern watched, quietly, patiently, night after night. The village nearest to the lantern was small. Only a handful of families lived there. They built their homes among tall cottonwood trees that swayed gently whenever the wind arrived from the river. Life moved slowly in the village. Fishermen left before sunrise. Children played along the river bank. Families gathered in the evenings to share meals and stories. And when darkness arrived, many people looked toward the old lantern. Its warm glow felt comforting, almost like a friend. There was an old belief among the villagers. They believed the lantern protected travelers. Whenever storms appeared on the river, the lantern somehow seemed brighter. Whenever thick fog covered the water, its light remained visible. Boat captains often spoke about it. Some claimed the lantern had guided them safely home during dangerous nights. Others said its light appeared when they felt lost. Whether those stories were true or not, nobody could say. But everyone loved the lantern, especially a young boy named Samuel. Samuel was 12 years old. He lived with his grandfather in a small wooden house near the riverbank. Every evening after finishing his chores, he walked to the dock where the lantern stood. He enjoyed sitting beside it, listening, watching, dreaming. The river always seemed to have something new to show him. Sometimes he watched birds glide across the sky. Sometimes he spotted turtles resting on floating logs. Sometimes he simply listened to the gentle sounds of moving water. The lantern became part of his daily routine. He often wondered about its history. Who had built it? Who lit it every night? And why did it never seem to run out of light? One autumn evening, Samuel finally asked his grandfather. They sat together on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. "Grandfather," Samuel said softly, "who owns the old lantern?" His grandfather smiled. The question did not surprise him. Many children had asked the same thing over the years. "That's a story older than I am," he replied. Samuel leaned forward eagerly. His grandfather looked toward the river. The lantern had already begun to glow. Its golden light shimmered across the water. "When I was your age," the old man said, "my grandfather told me a story about a riverkeeper." "A riverkeeper?" "Yes. A man who watched over travelers many years ago." Samuel listened carefully. According to the story, the riverkeeper lived alone in a cabin near the river. He spent his nights helping lost boaters find their way home. Whenever storms arrived, he carried a lantern to the dock. Its light could be seen from far away. The lantern became famous among river travelers. People trusted it. They followed it. And many believed it saved countless lives. "What happened to him?" Samuel asked. The old man smiled again. No one knows. He simply disappeared one winter. Samuel frowned. Disappeared? That's what the story says. The evening breeze moved through the trees. Leaves rustled softly. The river continued its endless journey toward the south. But the lantern remained, the grandfather continued, and every night it still shines. Samuel looked toward the dock. The lantern glowed warmly in the darkness. For a moment, he imagined the mysterious riverkeeper standing beside it, watching the river, protecting travelers, waiting for those who needed guidance. The thought filled him with wonder. That night after dinner, Samuel returned to the dock alone. The moon had risen above the river. Silver reflections danced across the water. The village behind him had grown quiet. Most people had already gone inside their homes. Only the sounds of crickets and distant owls remained. Samuel sat near the lantern. Its light cast gentle shadows across the wooden boards of the dock. The warmth felt strangely comforting, as if the lantern were alive. He closed his eyes for a moment. The sounds of the river surrounded him, the gentle splash of water, the whisper of wind, the rustling leaves overhead. Everything felt peaceful. Then something unexpected happened. A small boat appeared from the darkness downstream. It moved slowly through the moonlight. There was only one person aboard, an elderly fisherman. Samuel watched quietly as the boat approached. The fisherman guided it toward the dock. When he finally arrived, he tied his rope and stepped onto the wooden planks. He looked at the lantern and smiled. "Still shining," he whispered. Samuel hesitated. Then he spoke. "Do you know who built it?" The old fisherman chuckled softly. "That's a question I've heard many times." "Do you know the answer?" The fisherman looked out across the river. His eyes reflected the lantern's golden light. "Perhaps," he said. "Or perhaps the lantern prefers keeping its secrets." Samuel smiled. The answer only made him more curious. For several minutes they sat together in silence, watching the river, watching the stars, watching the lantern. Eventually the fisherman stood. Before leaving, he placed a gentle hand on the lantern's post. "Take care of her," he said softly. Then he disappeared into the night. Samuel remained where he was. The lantern continued glowing, steady, warm, unchanging. For the first time, Samuel felt certain that the stories were real. Perhaps the riverkeeper had existed. Perhaps the lantern truly protected travelers. Or perhaps some mysteries were meant to remain mysteries. The moon climbed higher into the sky. Mist began forming above the river. Everything seemed wrapped in a dreamlike stillness. Samuel finally stood and started walking home. Before leaving, he looked back one last time. The lantern shone brightly against the darkness. Its golden light reflected across the Mississippi like a pathway of stars. And somewhere deep inside, Samuel felt that this was only the beginning of a much larger story. A story the river had been waiting many years to tell. Give me prompt for image.